Can't believe it. I did it again. All right, guys, welcome. Hunter Web Apps. All right. I've done this shot like 6 times. I better be really good at it by now. So this is literally the first episode on my channel. We're doing dependency injection. I basically chose it by taking a dart, threw it at the board, and that's what it hit. Okay, this is my first episode. I'm breaking the ice and I'm getting some experience. Okay. I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you learned something. I don't know what the hell is going to happen, but let's jump into it. I think the first place that we want to start off is just a textbook definition so that we can get a handle on this, right? All right. So in software engineering, dependency injection is a technique in which an object receives other objects that it depends on, called dependencies. Typically, the receiving object is called a client, and the passed in or injected object is called a service. So we inject our service into the client. So, sounds pretty simple, but what the hell does that really mean? Let's pretend we'll play a game where we're a senior developer at Amazon, and let's say it's the early days, and we got to implement a delivery notification system. People want to know when they get to their deliveries, but the problem is that we have different types of delivery mechanisms: SMS, email, push notifications, Slack, all kinds. And there will be more in the future, right? We're going to invent new ones. So what do we do? Really, dependency injection is going to be fundamental to implementing this pattern. We're going to need 4 things. Number 1 being the interface. If you're not familiar with interfaces, add it to your list. It's absolutely fundamental, but we can conceptualize them as a contract. I really can't go into more details than that here. Add it to your list. You have to understand interfaces. Number 2 is a service. Okay, your service is going to implement that interface. Your client, number 3, is the dependent. It has the certain dependencies, and it accepts an interface. Okay, so you have a client that accepts an interface and one or more services that implement that interface. And then the 4th item is the injector to coordinate everything, right? So if you have a client and you have a service that implements the interface, then we need an injector to take that service and inject it into the client. Poof. First, we're going to do this without dependency injection so we can kind of compare and contrast. Okay, you'll find that the first way that we're going to do this is very intuitive, actually. It seems like a good way to do it. It's not. It's a horrible way to do it. Okay. So on line 1, we initialize our notification client. And then we call this send notification method 3 times for 2 different users. We have user 2 that wants an SMS and a push, and then user 1 that just wants an email. Okay. Now, if we take a look, send notification basically takes that user ID and the type, switches on the type to figure out which service it should initialize. It initializes it and then invokes the send method passing in that user ID. Okay, now the client has 3 responsibilities here. Number 1 is it has to actually figure out which service it's going to use. That's what that switch statement does. Once it's figured out which service to use, it has to actually initialize it. So it has to know which service, how to initialize it, and what method to invoke on it and what to pass into that method, right? That's a lot of responsibilities for one thing. With dependency injection, we can do it a little differently. And, there's a lot of legitimate reasons for it. So let's take a look at the inverted way. This is inversion of control. On the first line, we do the same thing. We just initialize that client. Okay. But now, instead of going straight to calling the send notification, we manually initialize this email service and inject it. Okay, so let's take a look at how that changes things. Originally, our send notification method had all these responsibilities where it had to figure out the service, initialize the service, and then invoke the method on that service. Now, it literally just invokes the method on that service, passing in the user ID. Okay. that frees the client up to focus on business logic, and it doesn't have to worry about all this other stuff that it's supposed to be responsible for. We pull that up the chain. By getting it up higher up the chain, it gives us a lot more control. For example, the main advantage to dependency injection is the way you see here, that the client has no idea which service it's receiving. All it knows is that service implements that interface, it satisfies that contract, and if it calls that send method, it can count on that service to do something. It doesn't need to know what it does, it just needs to know that it's doing it. So awesome. All right, in summary, thank you guys so much for joining me. You won't see takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but hopefully you enjoyed 6, and hopefully this all works out. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Go check me out at hunterwebapps.blog and sign up to the newsletter. I'm going to be putting out some incredible content. I am going to get great at this. I can guarantee you that. I'm going to work so hard that there's no way that this is the future for me. Okay, I'm all in. So keep an eye on me. I promise you it's going to get good. You're going to learn a lot and hopefully have a little bit of fun along the way. All right, thanks. See you guys.